news networks are not even getting clicks like that. So this shows like there's an opportunity for this, what we're doing here on this show.
You know, like you got excited if you heard the lawnmowers pass by. You looking, just to see some other life form, or whatever. Like it's like almost like you was in prison, even in
I
schools.
think
You
the
know what I'm
reason
saying?
I didn't get as many ass whoopings as I should is because the mandated reporters. Cause I go straight to school and be like, "Yeah, my mom beat the shit out of me right before I came in," and my mom was like, "Shit, um, I'm gonna spank your ass when it's right, but other than that, I'm not gonna do anything extra." And I was like, "I wish you would put your hands on me." And my mom look at me like, "Boy, don't
Yeah,
get it fucked
nah,
up."
shit.
You hear what I'm
That's what
saying?
that's how you was with your mom.
Yeah, I definitely was like, "Man, you better back the fuck up off me. Talk to me." You
It
like,
really kind of talks about this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I guess there's an uplifting side because I think you know people do have to realize that I mean you don't force yourself into any and everybody's life regardless if they're blood or not, because like I said, there's poisonous spirits that we directly say, oh no, that you don't want that person in your life. But if these
But
are
what I'll
people
say
who
is
are
this.
unhappy,
My
people who
argument
are
to that,
unhappy with themselves, or they've have a certain type of life that
right. But my argument to that is I think people need to have good examples in their life and they also need to have bad examples. So you can see, look, look at what this person does and look at how their life is. That's not what you want to be.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot of bad examples out there that they'll see, and that you know, as long as you have the closeness with your child yourself, to be able to walk them through and talk them through a lot of those things so that they can understand. Because I mean, they're gonna be just like us. They're gonna have their own way of seeing the world at some point too. So I mean, you don't want to hinder them by not exposing them to the world, just like you don't want to wait till they're adults and then like, go ahead, just go and see the world. Because I mean, I kind of, you know, besides my mom and her side of the family, like, bro, I'm gonna tell you, my dad's side of the family is awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're kind of outsiders even on my dad's side, and I think, honestly, I mean, I would have to say it's because of his the union he's in. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of separate themselves. It's kind of like, everybody else is some kind of disease or bacteria that just is infectious and they don't really know how to love that way. And it's not my dad is a very loving person, and his wife even shows some loving parts of herself, but I think when it gets too close, it's just kind of like, oh, I don't know if I really want to, like, I mean, there's some trauma there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel for them, and I could see a lot of it, but how do like, do you just go force yourself on them, and then like they don't really want that or know how to handle that type of closeness. Like, you know what I'm saying? If my mom had freaking COVID or the cooties or anything or whatever, you know what? She's getting a hug from me today. As soon as I see her, like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's where our love is. I don't care what's happening to her. She's got cancer. She's got AIDS. Whatever. I'm getting me a hug and a kiss when I see her, because you know what? If I die too, you know what? That's just what it is. But, you know, and I'm being extremist right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing very,
I
saying this
get
is
it.
very, but at the same time, it's just like, you know, the you know the it's I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of weird to me because like there's very big dynamics. I've talked to some of my dad's first cousins and this that and the other, and they're just like, where have you been? Like like they've never seen my son in person because of course yeah I've been busy. A lot of it is my fault, but at the same time my dad is retired. My dad's been retired for 30 years, damn near 20 something plus
D-
years. he's
Damn.
he's been retired, and like he hasn't spent one night at my dad's house. He hasn't, like maybe been able to go to some of the little family reunions where I can't be present because I do have to work, to let him meet with them. Like he's no, you know what? They have seen him. He went to one family reunion. We was there, but like it gets weird on that side sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It's kind of I don't really get it, but and I want him to know that side. Like I mean, shoot, there's a legacy really on that side of the family who uh who we are. Like shit, we in from the country, lots and lots of stuff. But I don't know. Like I said, there's some trauma there somewhere that you can't peel the onion back enough because people are so you know ashamed. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what we was talking about. The shame is not there because you don't you're let your ego take complete control, and you are self-absorbed sociopath that's created by our system.
Hmm. And I
And if
think
you
I think
just
I think their religion too kind of keeps them away from people.
mm,
The because if you're not that too, then you're not one of
right,
them.
exactly. A lot of people are like that right now. People that are like they feel like they're doing the right thing as far as like um and they are in a lot of ways, but they it's kind of like the Amish, right? If you but then that guy Kamaru Fresh, he was saying that it's hard to really live the principles, the spiritual principles, in this day and age, with the whole everything pushing against it. The peer
Yeah.
pressure is a real thing.
Well, see, the thing about it is that like, uh, they've built a world for us that is very unobtainable. Like they give us like, of course, like the religious world, gives these high standards, but then you put everything here available for us to not, like that's more like all of the worldly things are pushed more than whatever these concepts and beliefs and all this that and the other might try to teach you, to where you have to be some super person to be able to deal, what I'm saying, like it's kind of a weird dynamic, and they're steadily pushing certain things in the world that just, I mean, I'm not gonna allow to disrupt, my world, but you know, just me having my own way of, my way of in the world, where, you know, shoot, really, as a child, that was the best time to try to guide me through certain things. But now I think for myself, and I see, some of the things they're doing as like old and out of date, and it's just there's too much, there's too many things available. I haven't learned. I never learned how to just keep, see one thing and that's it. I think there's many possibilities in the world. So, like I ponder on those different things, and I kind of, give balance between those things where, they, I guess was at a point in time where that's all they can do. They take one aspect and you know what, this is the one I'm gonna live with, and that's just that. Where I don't know, it's different. I mean, am I wrong? Debatable, but
But see, that's what I be saying. Like, and with these moms, a lot of these moms have that attitude, and they're like, am I wrong? But maybe I am. But the good outweighs the bad in my decisions. Doc says, I told you about some people in my family. I'm okay with leaving most of them behind, but my family is a horrible bar to use as a measure. But we all got, man, I don't even want to say too much, but bruh, Doc, I think a lot of people would feel the same way. So I have to say the same argument with you. You know what I mean? Because I would agree with you. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard.
well, and I might have some bitterness. Honestly, I would say I do have some bitterness because regardless of all those differences I have with my dad, I still see the value of him in not just my life but my son's life. You know what I'm saying? So
Come right back.
I do, wish that there was more of a connection there instead of shutting themselves off. I called him yesterday or day before yesterday, and he was busy. He was visiting with somebody who was sick and this, that, and the other. But he's like, I'm gonna call you back. And we've had a few differences where like we disagree on some stuff politically, but I never think that that's going to be something that's going to keep him and I apart because we have different political views. But you know what I'm saying? But I guess it does have some effect on him because he believes strongly in the way he does. I do the same, and I think that's hey, we're men. We're supposed to have our own views. I look at him as a sucker if he, felt he had to be a certain way just to be in my life or I from, either ways. But I don't know, man. Like it's kind of effed up, but it's still, my biggest motto in life, it is what it is, and I guess it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So
Things can get complicated really quick, and I used to collect a lot of like wires for the television, HDMI, or something for my stereo, or auxiliary cord, and things. I swear, I used to just throw stuff in a box, didn't touch it, and I'm like, how did everything get tangled? How is that possible? There's no, I mean, like wires from the cable box, and I'm like, there's no way, and it literally did. I gotta sit there
did
for
you
like
tie?
5 minutes, like trying to untie stuff, and I'm like, damn, as long as I
You did.
don't,
You didn't tie them up
excuse,
individually.
bro, of course, yes, of course. But I'm saying, I just threw it in a box. How does everything get entangled? It almost defies
I mean,
physics a little bit.
it's the spirit of Jada Pinkett.
Everything is moving. Yeah, it's like, all right, I get.
The entanglement.
Man, and I'm like, that's why I don't got no friends right now. Like, you know, a couple people I could like reach out to or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like from fucking kindergarten to middle school to high school, like everybody is on their own journey. And when I was younger, the more I got mixed up in just dumb shit. Dumb shit happens. It's like, why? Cousin got killed. Case hasn't been solved. Bro, it was gang violence. You know what I mean? The police don't care about that.
No, just the fact
Life
that
gone. Life gone. For you said
That's
what?
one
you
thing.
know how
That's
much you know how much that would ruin their lives if all the cases got solved and they ended gang violence, they ended, you know, all these
For
things.
nothing,
They
for
wouldn't.
pennies. I'm like, what did you really die for, bro? Nothing. You be like, nothing. Because I didn't like him, or he wore a different color.
Bullshit.
And
stupidest shit ever.
I definitely like my son, and I'm not
But people
going
don't
for
like
none
it.
of that.
But just think about like how much people would have nothing to do. They wouldn't. So a lot of people wouldn't be able to point their finger at people if like the world was nice everywhere. Like, you know, it's not conducive to them to truly solve issues because
Right.
there's a lot of people really like being able to point the finger. You know, like
Right.
it's like, you know, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and there's things that caused these situations. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, you can blame it on the government, but a lot of times it's the people that, you know, moved along with things that the government may allow for you to do. Because I mean, you know, that's just like, you know, when parents, you know, separate, divorce or whatever, and you know, not only do they leave their wife, their spouse, their girlfriend or whatever, but them having a kid, they're also leaving their kid, you know, to their own vices. You know, you know, shit. It kind of hurt my heart to hear people that deals with that, because, you know, me and my ex, we make sure that, we have a good relationship still throughout all of this, because, you know, we both have enough love for our child to make sure that they have as much of both of us as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, even to this day, like me and my son, we talk every day. Like, I'm a truck driver, I'm on the road, whatever. But he gets a part of me. You know, I might not be able to have that physical, you know, time with him every day, but he does have a mental and spiritual aspect of me every day. So, you know, and those things are important. And of course, I'm still, you know, I'm doing things because I want a lot of his teenage years to have me there, so I can, you know, walk day to day with him, to have that type of thing in his life. But, you know, there's some parents that get to a point where they never, like, shit, when my mom and dad separated or divorced, I was like 4 or 5 years old, something like that. So practically my entire life, you know, I was raised up without a father. My oldest brother had some time, but he's 6 years older than I am. So if I was 4, like he had at least up to 10. You know, so he had a lot of his formidable years as far as uh, with my dad, where I think that's why he was more angry growing up than we were, because he knew it was like with him there, and once he was gone, it was just kind of like, you know, whatever. But I think those relationships really do matter. And, you know, I think that because of the way I was raised, you know, how, you know, me having that absence made me know that I wouldn't allow that to happen to my child, my son. You know, but yeah,
Breaking the cycle, break the generational curses if we can. You know,
yeah,
a lot of this is abuse. You know, because neglect is abuse. We talk about sexual abuse, we talk about physical abuse, and we don't talk about neglect
I would
enough.
say more. I would say more trauma. And sometimes, even if you don't go through something like a schism, it's in your brain, and we have to learn to not be desensitized, but rationalize and say, okay, well, yeah, we want to break that curse, but what are we going to do to break it? How are we going to do it? It's not
well,
going to happen to me. It's not going to
I,
happen to my children.
but look, Elliot, I'm gonna tell you, I think what Chaka just said is more true. I think I mean, it is abuse because I mean, if you think about the mental abuse that comes with you
No, I
being
didn't disagree with
wired.
that. I was just saying like trauma. Trauma sticks in your
No,
brain
oh
where
yeah.
the
The neglect
Well, let's say
causes trauma.
yeah, because it is both. It the trauma. Yeah, exactly. Like like the fact that I'm
trauma sticks in your
debating.
brain, and your brain doesn't know how to differentiate trauma versus a past issue. It's always gonna stick.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And you see, like I think a lot of boomers, especially black boomers, didn't exercise expressing themselves a lot when they were growing up, or having to be quiet about this, shut up, and like things they went through as kids, and they kind of didn't know how to. They didn't know how to talk to other people. They don't, they didn't really, as on a real level where they're expressing feelings and dealing with them in the moment, to where, being raised with mothers, a lot of us do express our feelings, and you know, sometimes it might be too much, too emotional for some guys, but at the same time, we had some of that because we were raised with mothers. Um, but by them holding these things in and never really fixing their issues, and then when they're dealing with us, they don't really get to the bottom of because you know I've gotten some whippings in my time, but I never really fully understood, or did they even try to understand why I did what I did, or it was just, oh, you did it, okay, you getting a whooping, and all right, shut the hell up and go on. Kind of that slave type of you know mentality. Like, man, I'm gonna whoop your ass, and then that's it. You got to be able to talk through a lot of things so that there's some understanding. Like if you whooping a kid's ass and they don't really understand, they know that they did this act, but okay, why was that? Why did that act bother you so badly? Like, why? What's so? You know, how can I even avoid doing this shit again? Because I'm really confused about everything that just happened, and because of the way their parents taught them, that might have been just coming out of slavery themselves, that was right, like on the verge of slavery themselves, and it just, that mentality stuck with them so much because they don't know how to express real feelings.
Yeah. Communication. We don't know how to communicate effectively. I meant to mention that earlier because we was talking about something, and I meant to say that because not being able to communicate effectively because you don't know the words and you can't be honest, you're afraid, you're trying to be politically correct. And I think beating your kids is abuse. I don't agree with it.
Well,
I think we have to, like you say, you can't find the right
I'm
well,
moving.
words.
I'm whooping ass for the right reason. Other than that, you have free will.
Well, I'm gonna tell you now because I think like in Patrick's entire life, he's gotten two two you say two whoopings, and I never went ham on him. You know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of you know, when they're exercising certain tendencies, and it's kind of like a little wake up call, because like I don't necessarily believe in it. Like I want you to understand, but when you're not, really listening, kind of just moving on a path that's just not, good, to be able to deal with the world. What I'm saying? If you have a certain mindset and I gotta send him out in the world and he can, had a bad temper at one time. You know what I'm saying? And you go out there and trying to do that. So I feel like I'd rather give you the whooping than the world. You know what I'm saying? So that I think that there's some times that, we do need to get to that point, but we can't use that as the crutch. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get, dig down deep and, should become like our kids appreciate our failures, really. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
to be able
Hey,
to
you
be
gotta
in touch
really
with.
push. You gotta really push parents. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. There's a lot of people in the world, but you gotta push a person to a certain point where it's like, this is not rational. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's if they're listening. If
Like,
if they're listening, yeah, you may not have to go to the point of that little wake up call, a little, spanking or whatever. But when they're kind of being stubborn, they think, oh, well, they're untouchable. Nobody's gonna do them nothing. Yeah, they will. And you know what? I'm gonna start it because you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Let,
and
let me
that's me. Like I said, I'm not like getting to the point where, you know, like I want him, like if I talk, because I threatened him with it at first. So first of all, I need him to let him know I'm real. Okay, you know what? I thought me threatening was gonna be good enough. I gotta follow through with my word. So it's like, look, just don't if you this you don't like this, don't test me like this no more. Like we can, I'm gonna give you enough respect to where, if you gonna talk, if we gonna talk about this, we can talk about this. But if not, I mean, we can do this all over again. You know what I'm saying? Like it's my job. I'm ordained by God to protect you, and sometimes me
For
protecting you
real.
might mean, what I'm saying, like it may
at
push
least
me
hurting the
to.
I
feelings.
went I went in on my
Disappointment.
son's ass. He said, don't hit me right away. I'm like, dude, I'm going in. Otherwise I wouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
Like it's
Let me read
right.
the comments. I'm behind. Doc says police call it population control. I'm so late. I don't even remember what that was. And he says the criminal community keeps its own population in check. He says it's one of those problems where everyone has an answer, but no one has a solution. And
Oh
he
wow.
says here have to be solid lines, and they must have crossed them by choice or whim. I'll give a break when he was talked into it the first time.
Well, you know what? And I do appreciate those comments. Those, that's some real shit. But I mean, we think about, we hear. I know I've heard some of the stories where, shoot, the whole neighborhood. I did something wrong. The whole neighborhood, shoot, miss such and such, and auntie this and this that, and the other got a piece of, whoop my
It takes a
ass.
village to raise a child.
But none of them really talk to me.
But what about the days when you were young? Could a teacher spank your ass? Remember when they used to hit him with the ruler?
Yeah, I got a ruler. Shit, well,
Shit,
in
we was
my
calling the
school, it
police.
was a
In
paddle.
my age,
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I
nowadays
used to
with
get
what, I mean,
paddled. all the
Yeah, I
time
got, man, I
Like,
got, say, bro, I'm
at
no,
gonna say,
school.
sir.
Mr. Cozy, may he rest in peace. But I'm gonna tell you, bro, he lit me up a few times, and that shit woke me up. I'm like, all right, you know
He
what?
said he lit me up.
He did.
I ain't gonna lie. The paddling, the paddling had no impact on me. I
I
got
think the
paddled
only,
all
Well,
the time.
I was still
I,
stubborn. I was still stubborn, but I was still like, all right, you know what? I need to do something different because I don't
I
want that
think the
shit.
reason I didn't get as many ass whoopings as I should is because the mandated reporters. Cause I go straight to school and be like, "Yeah, my mom beat the shit out of me right before I came in," and my mom was like, "Shit, I'm gonna spank your ass when it's right, but other than that, I'm not gonna do anything extra." And I was like, "I wish you would put your hands on me." And my mom look at me like, "Boy, don't, hey, don't
Yeah,
get it fucked
nah,
up."
shit.
You hear what I'm
That's what
saying?
that's how you was with your mom.
Yeah, I definitely was like, man, you better back the fuck up off me. Talk to me. You like, let's figure this out. Why I did this thing wrong. Don't be putting your hands on me. Period. Because
You sound like a
I
white kid.
I know I'm. You think?
That's
Come on.
that's why that's why we thought you was white at first when you first started the show. I'm
Right.
just
He said
you
you
sound
sound
like
like a white kid.
yeah,
Don't be putting your hands on me. I'm not going at all.
because
I
most
wish.
black
Well, you know what?
that
I
wouldn't
didn't
work.
have enough nerve. I didn't have enough nerve to talk to my parents in
Yeah,
that way.
that wouldn't work in most black families, bro. That's
Yeah,
not gonna
say,
Oh
bro.
fly.
God, I
No, because
know.
you say, bro, that no, that does not work in the majority. Like you're part of that 1%.
Yeah, because that don't work normally. Things finna be
Not
worse.
going.
Things are about to get worse now.
Oh
she finna,
no,
they finna call in
I'm
reinforcements.
telling. I could call my
you
mama
just said
right now. I got $100 on my name. I could call her. She'd be like, "Yeah, I was a
say,
little bit
bro,
scared to spank his ass."
say, bro.
Nah,
If I would
they
have said
gonna
something
call
like
in
that,
rein.
if I would have said something like that to my mom at
They
during that time, like
they calling in
I would have
reinforcements.
we would have moved straight from a 3-dimensional world into a 5.
I'm
Like
telling you, they would have called in reinforcements. They would have beat your ass and then call somebody else to beat your
I
ass.
told my
All the
grandma one time,
somebody else
my
coming.
I said, "Well, if you can whoop me, then my grandma could whoop you because technically that's your mama." So
yeah,
he
Yeah, you gonna have
said, "You
family
sound like
members.
a white kid."
Yeah, you gonna have you
Hell
say
no.
that most black families you gonna have the whole family finna come beat your ass.
My
Uncle
grandma
well,
came
Charles.
over. She said, "My grandma came over. She said,
he
don't be
said
putting your hands
what?
on that baby."
Yeah.
No, it's like he said
Yeah,
what?
technically, my grandma and my
Who
mom
this
should have
nigga
been
think
whooping
he
my ass.
is?
Yeah.
Right.
Who the fuck you think he is? And then
Yeah.
a lot of abuse. I saw a lot of abuse, bro. So like I saw people getting hit with broomsticks, chairs, extension cords, irons,
I see
bro.
now. That's real abuse.
I seen
Now I
that
mean,
too.
I thought I ain't gonna lie. I thought that I was getting it when I got it with an extension cord. You know what I'm saying? But shit, you
That's
talking
why I
about
thought the
broom?
shit was retarded because I seen a mom punch my homeboy, my ex homeboy, because he went through some other shit. But like, she like punch him in the chest. No, she punched him in the face like a grown man. And I was like, man, I wish that bitch would. I'm turning this motherfucker completely out. You got me twisted.
Oh,
Like I said, mom, try it. Like you seen that? Like no, definitely not.
yeah. You had a totally different experience than I had
Me too.
because
But
I mean I might not be.
I didn't
I
really
don't know if
get
I would be here talking to y'all today if I spoke like that. You know about my family in any kind of way. Shoot.
let me read a
But no,
comment.
look,
Doc says right quick. Paddling was a point of pride when I was in school. Fuck it's smacking you down is worth the licks. That's Doc and me and Doc agrees because it was kind of like Well, how many am I gonna get? I'm gonna get 4, 5. Okay, whatever. And it was like, I don't know. I didn't really get in trouble at home, but I got in trouble at school a lot, and I didn't get
Well, you
much.
know that, but you know what? I think too, like they had a myth going around the school that the principal had an electric paddle, and
I,
you know what I'm saying? Like that was something like anticipation, like, oh damn, am I gonna get the electric paddle? Like you never really saw it, but then he had a wooden paddle with a wire tied at the end at the end of it, like
That sounds even more weird. Like when a motherfucker, like when they showed what was that Roots, I'd have been like, man, this is like slavery all over again. Definitely not. Like
well, I
this
mean,
has to stop.
corporal punishment period is pretty much has the ties because I mean, from what I understand historically, that's not something that melanated people dealt with to a certain extent until you know I guess our interactions, well, at least here or even in Africa, that until the interaction with the Europeans, whether they were black or white, you know what I'm saying? Because I mean that was just something that came from that part of the world. But however,
but let me tell you
that's
what I
something.
didn't like. The paddling didn't bother me, but they had those little round sticks. I had a teacher that would say ball up your knuckles, and then they would pop me in my knuckle with this little stick, and that shit kind of hurt.
T
I ain't gonna lie.
say, bro, TOR is what drove me nuts. Like trying to make me sit down somewhere for the entire day and write, like copy, copy some bullshit that you have to, TOR
Yeah, that's
timeout
the
room.
worst. That's the
Yeah,
worst. That's the worst. When they do detention and all that shit, I'd rather take
yeah,
the paddles.
yeah,
Give me the paddle, please. Please,
yes. Let me
please, please.
let me
Yeah,
just get this over
detention.
with and send me back to class.
Detention was real. Like I will not do this like 100 times. I'm like, man, I rather learn what I need to learn and get the fuck out of here. Like
Yeah. Detention was a definite deterrent. It's like, I'm
that
gonna
was
do my
weird.
class. I'm gonna do my classwork. I don't this shit. It's like prison, bro, and it's torture too. So it's like a torture prison. So it's just suffering the whole time, and it's just like, yeah, that make you want to do your work and not get in trouble, bro. Because that detention shit, that shit there.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Well,
in high
did y'all
school.
school?
Go ahead.
Did y'all schools have windows where you can see outside?
Not if you was in like a detention.
No, I'm talking about
No, not really.
regular
No,
classroom. Well, you grew up
definitely
in
What?
Baton,
not.
Ellie. You grew
You
up
was
in Baton
always
Rouge,
facing
right?
the teacher, and the window was right behind. Like that was like the gay way to get out, but you can't get out. Only way out was the door. And they
Yeah.
didn't have cameras either. Now they got cameras in there. I'm like, man, if I was in high school, shit,
Well, look,
I would have definitely failed with
to your,
cameras. I'm like, we
to
was
your
doing all
point,
type of weird shit.
Pat, I think that there's less because, like, it depended on the school. Like, I was in a lot of schools, so some of them had a lot of. But I think that in our childhood, there was more windows in the schools. I think that because, like, Anaya's school, her all through elementary and middle school, she didn't really have no windows, bro. It was like the only windows were up high, and it just was like light shining in. They couldn't see out though.
Yeah, yeah. That's because I mean, I think in elementary school, like they had windows, but they was not necessarily stained glass, but there was like that old distorted glass. You can't really see clearly through it, and like you got excited if you heard the lawnmowers pass by. You looking, just to see some other life form, or whatever. Like it's like almost like you was in prison, even in school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, because you couldn't see out clearly. Doc says I played cello through middle and high school. I wouldn't accept them smacking my hands, and my parents and music teacher would lose their minds if they tried. That shit hurt, bro. That shit, they did that shit to me. He said translucent glass is probably what you're talking about. He says like the showers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, it's a lot of stuff that I don't think that we really realize is had an effect on us as well. Because I mean, going to school, like, you're already a boy. Like, boys get affected by puberty, I think, somewhat before.
Later than
Before
girls for sure.
you said later or before? Because I say before,
Later,
because
they go through puberty way before boys do.
well, yeah, possibly, but at the same time, theirs don't show up in the with a mask, something sticking up out the side of your pocket to what I'm saying, that they could be embarrassed by.
Right.
They can hide theirs, you know what I'm saying? And it's like just having these long periods of time where you just gotta sit there in class, and then of course the stress of, okay, when you start having those reactions in class, is like, oh, please don't call me up to the front, please, please, please
Yeah,
don't
like
call
you
me up
gotta
to.
wait to get up or you prolong it. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. So earlier, Pat, before you got on, we was talking about Easter a bit, and like like the history of it and where it came from, and then
Hmm.
ultimately, what I like to say is that it's totally okay to celebrate these things, even though people are now kind of shunning away from it. You know, as long as you really understand what's going on and you don't get lost in
The
Yeah.
hype. I mean, I would say, I mean, a lot of people lie to their children. I seen a meme where it was like, you know, we don't want to lie to our children, or no, we call our children a lie, but then we say Santa Claus is real, or the fairy tooth, or the fairy. You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah. That's
Well,
where it starts. I talk about
Like
this all
just
the time. I
has to
talk about
stop.
this. That's how it starts. We lie to them, and as they grow older, they keep on discovering things that are like, wait, that wasn't even true at all. Like everybody was lying to me over and over and over again. That happens. I don't think that's a proper way to raise a child, and that's why we have so many cynical people because they don't believe in anything. So that's the worst, right? Like that's not really an atheist. Like believing in nothing is like that's nihilism.
Mm,
well, I
true.
look. I told my son, yeah, Santa Claus is real. You got your gifts, right? I was like, yeah, I play Santa Claus every year.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah, they
saying?
need to.
Just you know what I'm saying? Because it's because honestly, like, that whole thing, like, that's a part of how we get programmed on something. And like, this whole idea of belief, like a belief, and in the word belief there is be lie. So like, you're being a lie with a lot of these beliefs. And there's something that's good in knowing, and like the whole comfort of having something that you can really point to and say, okay, this is this is that, or whatever. A mythology that started years ago, that hundreds of years ago for certain, that you don't, what I'm saying, like, trying
I
to
kind of feel
continue.
like if you can't explain it and it doesn't have, something like a backstory or a folktale, then let's just cut all that out. People go broke trying to please the children to, give gifts, but you don't want to start a business,
Yeah,
and that's hard. You know what I mean? A business is
Yes.
hard.
That well,
but
no, that
trying to make sense out of something that makes no sense. And like, I'm steadily trying to justify it and try to give new reasons why they should stay in this whole realm of belief. Like, that hinders a child. Like, it's not like someday real magic is gonna pop up and some of these things are really gonna happen. You're gonna have to deal with the reality of it, at some point. Like, and the longer you do it, the worse off it really is.
right.
You know,
'Cause you're
because now
struggling the whole time.
Your child looks at you as a liar.
Yeah. And they struggling the whole time, and they expecting this thing to come that's never coming, that's never going to happen. But I want to go to Elliot's point of the pressure of these holidays.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do?
We want you to be an activist, and don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Pulley.